Thanks for tuning into the Urban Scope podcast. I'm here to talk about the Scottie Pippen discussion they had on Gil's Arena, uh, Gilbert Arenas podcast, which they speak mostly about basketball. And I like the podcast because it's very entertaining, one. And two, they talk about the intricacies of the basketball game. They don't really speak in generalities. They talk in details like setting picks and being able to set up moves and different things like that. They talk about more in-depth analysis of the game opposed to like a Fox Sports or ESPN who don't really have enough time to cover these things. Gil's Arena actually covers these things in more depth, and they get down to personal basis because all of those, are all the people on the show are former athletes. You have your Kenyon Martins, uh, you have your Rashad McCants, Gilbert Arenas, you have these different players. Even they even have a WNBA player, current player on there, and then they bring Cheryl Swoops on sometimes as well. So it's very entertaining just from the dialogue and the wit that they have. But the in-depth analysis is amazing, and they always bring these great talking points as well. So I'm always entertained by that podcast. But they brought up an interesting discussion regarding Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen is he was top 50 and top 50 of 75. He was top 75th greatest players of all time. But he's one of the most probably underrated out of the bunch because he played alongside Michael Jordan, who many consider the greatest player of all time. Now, when you're playing next to the greatest player of all time, you can be undervalued, you can be unappreciated. And to some degree, they kind of talked about this just due to the simple fact of is Scottie Pippen top 30 of all time? Because when you think about it, he's top 50 and top 75, but where does he rank in that top 50? And they don't really specifically rank it in order. It's just who's in the top 50. So they have very good dialogue, like I said, about this topic. And Kenyon Martin made some great points about Scottie Pippen's ability without him even stepping foot on the floor. Now, he had the measurables, and the measurables are very important in any sport because you can't teach those. You can't teach somebody that's 6'7", someone that's 200 pounds, that can run fast, that can jump high. You can't teach those things. You can't teach somebody that's 7 foot. You can't do it. So a lot of time people get drafted or get scouted off of their measurables, like how tall you are. Like nobody's gonna just go out and say, "Oh, I need this 5'6" guy to change my team." They're gonna look out for these tall guys. They're gonna look for these guys that have these great measurables. And Scottie Pippen had that. He had the long arms. He was tall. He could defend and all these other different things. But from a standpoint, I think he was very balanced, and that could be underrated as well. When you have a special skill set, they look at that more of an asset than somebody who's more balanced. So he was a two-way player, great on offense, okay. Well, he was serviceable on offense and he was great on defense. So a lot of people overlooked him because he's not this 30-point a game scorer, and he's not known for 30-point games. He's known for locking down the best player on the opposing team and maybe giving you, around 20 points maybe. So he was underappreciated in that way. But Kenyon Martin made the point of, if you're on a basketball court, you would pick Scottie Pippen just because of his measurables. Opposed to other players and things like that. A player like Nikola Jokic doesn't look impressive from the measurable standpoint other than he's 7 foot. He doesn't have a great physique or anything like that. But once you see him play, it changes everything. And that's what Kenyon Martin kind of said. Like, he said he would pick a lot of players, Scottie Pippen over a lot of players, just because of what he can bring to the game. Not only is he serviceable on offense, but he can lock down players on defense. So he brings a lot of value that a lot of people don't appreciate. And another point that they made is he was always available. He wasn't hurt as much as a lot of players that's in that top 50 and top 75. Like he said, he would pick him over Joel Embiid and the other players like that because he knows Scottie Pippen will be available for the most part. And that's something that you don't find often as well. And like I said, Scottie Pippen is mostly overshadowed just because he played next to a great player, one of the greatest players of all time. similar to playing next to a LeBron James. I don't think as much as Kyrie. Kyrie, when he played next to him, he was kind of overshadowed. He would come out with these amazing games every now and then, but for the most part, all the storylines are dominated by LeBron James. So when you think about, and another thing I think about Scottie Pippen too, that kind of overshadowed him over the last years, is his hatred or openly blatant statements he made about Michael Jordan after that documentary that released during the COVID years. The I can't think of the documentary's name, but it escapes my mind. But the Last Dance documentary. So when he made that Last Dance documentary, he made a lot of statements talking about Jordan was overrated and all this stuff, and that kind of threw people off because, it's your teammate. Like, why would you say that about your teammate? Jordan hasn't said anything publicly bad about him per se. So, and then he made comments about LeBron being better than Jordan and how more versatile he was. But now Pippen is saying that he can beat LeBron in the game, and he was better than LeBron. So it's just a little confusing, and it seems a little hypocritical that he's trying to dominate headlines. I know he came out with this autobiography a couple of years ago, so he's trying to keep his name in the headline, keep his name relevant as he's trying to sell that book. But he also talked about recently that LeBron is not better than him because he didn't have to chase rings, which is like Gil's Arena talked about as well. Like, why did he go to Portland and then why did he go to Houston with Kareem? I mean, not Kareem, but Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, what was he chasing, or what was he doing going to those teams if he wasn't ring chasing? He could have stayed with the Bulls, but he didn't choose to do so. So it's very confusing, but I do think Scottie Pippen is somewhere in that top 30 range. I wouldn't put him in the top 20. I definitely wouldn't put him there, but he's probably somewhere in the 30s. He is a lot underappreciated just because, like I said, he was playing next to one of the greatest players of all time. But in addition to that as well, after he left the Bulls, and he didn't really do much. The 2 years that Jordan missed, he was an all-star one of the years, I believe, and they almost made the championship game. But the second year, it was just kind of blah. So he really didn't prove, that was his time to prove that he can carry a team, and he was a star as well. But when he went to Houston and when he went to Portland, he was already done for, mostly because of probably the back issues and just Father Time getting to him. But it's interesting to see Scottie Pippen talk again about this, but next time he talks, it'll probably be about some conflicting or hypocritical statement again. So, but nevertheless, thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. And until next time, I'll see you next time.